All right, we are back again, and did I ever think I was going to be talking about drones as much as we are? No. My name is John Ryan. I'm from Coffee Talk and Tech, and usually I do stuff that is all involved with streaming and technology, but I happen to be from New Jersey, and thank you, Darren, for coming in and checking me out here and supporting the stream. He's also a moderator. Here's the deal, guys. Since day one, when we started talking about these drones and what was going on, we're going back to November 13th when it actually started happening in New Jersey. So if no one realized that it was happening that early, that's when it started happening. And it took about till November 18th in my town, 16th, 18th, where a lot of people were talking about stuff that was not normal, stuff that was going on where people were questioning what is in the air truly. And when we started talking about this more and more, we realized the truth, which was what everybody else is saying out there on these different states who are doing these live streams, people who are not from New Jersey. They don't know what they're talking about and what's going on. Now, I want to put things in perspective early right now, okay? Because a lot of people are just roaming all the social media, getting information that is not really true. And a lot of this talk about the drones is a lot of misinformation in the beginning, because when the drones originally started showing up, we had a lot of talk about what is going on. Why isn't anybody talking about this? Why isn't anybody believing it? No one did anything. No one showed up. And now we get to a point where finally, about 3 weeks later, we get, and I just want to go and touch back on this a little bit and show what I did about another stream. And I was just explaining that finally, the Picatinny Arsenal, who is 2 miles away from me. And this is why this impacted me so much, because everybody started talking about the drones weeks after it initially happened in Morris County, New Jersey. This is where it initiated. This is where it started. And I'm talking about before we go back to Langley Air Force Base earlier this year, where they had a 17-day time frame where drones were showing up every day. And then all of a sudden, they showed up in Picatinny Arsenal. And this was the headlines that just this past week that the Arsenal had put out. They are not our drones, says Picatinny Arsenal, but Morris Base confirms the sightings. And so they went on to talk about how they know that they're out there. They know that what's going on. They're confirming that they came onto their property, actually, and there was questions about who are these people and what is possibly going on. So that kind of fortified what everybody was saying from our town of Rockaway, New Jersey. And if you're in Rockaway, West Milford, Denville, you were seeing these drones for a few days. And this is when we started realizing something was up. Now, quickly, I want to go over some of these things about the drones. They started out as smaller drones the size of a hood, and then eventually there were fixed wing drones, and then it went to even bigger drones, bigger than I would ever imagine I would see. And the bigger ones, I only saw one. So I just want to put that in perspective. Over the course of 3 weeks, I only personally saw 3 drones, but I wasn't out there every day looking. The forum was basically filled of people looking at them. And this is where things got off kilter, because people really tend not to look up as much as they do. And when they started looking up, were overflight patterns. And the thing is I kind of knew this because I fly drones and I was used to this kind of talk. And I was looking at the Radar 24 app and the website, and it shows you directly when the jets fly over. There was nothing coming up on radar with all these drones. I just want to make that evident at this point, and I want to get this information out. And so at this point, we know The drones are real. They're confirming it. Okay. So I just realized that now all of a sudden there's talk out there that there's something to do with these drones now. They are panning and scanning everywhere for radioactive material. And immediately I thought to myself, this just sounds weird. It just doesn't really make 100% sense to me. Because there's all the time, there was all this talk, and yes, I watched it, and there's all this talk about the drones and what are they? Who are they from? Are they ours? Are they not ours? And no one could answer the questions. The senators, everyone to this day now have no idea. I have friends that work for power companies. Supposedly the FBI was out there talking to some of these people, asking them, is it your planes or drones? Because along with drones that scan and regularly for a lot of these nuclear power plants and power plants, they scan for radioactive leakage, and they do regularly have helicopters that actually go and check this stuff out. When it comes to like DHS, they'll fly the area and look for this. All of a sudden they're talking about these drones looking for radioactive material because of a dirty bomb. And I just thought that was like so weird. And so first things first, this is exactly a video of, sorry, that might be a little loud. This is a video of a drone and how it scans. And look how low it is with that piece of equipment hanging, scanning for going through certain patterns, basically scanning the ground for a difference in radioactive numbers. And along the way, I just spent a couple hours today also looking at, and then they come up with they'll have a whole surface scan, and then it will show you the hot spots in the middle. But then I went on a little, rabbit hole, going to check a few other things where it didn't make sense to me that we would go and have drones basically flying over to check radioactive material. It just didn't make any sense. So the first thing I thought is, we absolutely have to have satellites that do this already. I mean, if I had to think about the technology, I would think that they would already have that kind of technology through satellites. And so then when I looked that up today, and I actually found out that they were able to, in the late 60s, be able to run some satellites, and it got more sophisticated as time goes on, but they were able to track radioactive materials from from space on satellites to be able to check all this kind of stuff out. Now, I know that they have to I know the technology might be different, but I would think that they've had this already for a very long time. Now, I don't know. If you're not from New Jersey, you might not understand what I'm talking about with this radioactive material in the scanning. And the reason that I'm talking about this, because these are the rumors that are going on now today that this is happening. And they're talking about a possible dirty bomb issue, and they're searching, and it just doesn't really pan out in my head or make sense, and therefore no one has come forward and talked about this at all, about scanning anything for a dirty bomb. So if they're really looking for something, no one's telling us who it is and what they're looking for. Track you by your hands in your vintage watch. Okay. Okay, let me see what you're saying here, Cyber Ash. These drones have messed up my order. I have ordered from a company in Georgia, and they've been supposed to be here Saturday around in between Hackensack, Jamaica, in New York, Tito Bar. Okay, so your stuff is getting hung up everywhere. And that's the other thing. In the last couple of days, there's been a couple instances where they have shut down some smaller airports because of fear of these drones. And I don't know what the fear is. I don't know if it's people. I heard 2 people got arrested by flying drones too close to the airport yesterday or today. There's all these people who are copycatting, and these issues are going on all the time with the mass majority of these drones. And that's the thing that I wanted to point out, that the mass majority of all these people who are calling in saying these crazy drones, they're not drones, they end up being airplanes. And I could say that it has weaned off in my area of Morris County. And then if you go and start talking to some of the other people in different parts of New Jersey and down by Philly, they're talking that the drone traffic picked up, and off of Ocean County, New Jersey, they were talking about 50 drones coming out of the ocean and into land. And I showed a little report of that. But meanwhile, while all this is going on, though, this is what they're constantly telling us in between everything. They're like,
safety. Naomi Rockham has more.
It's hovering. It's sitting right there.
Mysterious drone sightings over multiple states, including New Jersey, have led to widespread confusion and growing calls for answers.
Americans are finding it hard to believe. We can't figure out where these are coming from.
So no one knows. No one has answers, but this is the main thing I wanted to say. This is what they keep on saying over and over. They go,
No evidence of a current threat to public safety. Naomi Rockham has
no evidence of current threat of public safety. So that makes it kind of uncomfortable for sure if they're discussing that kind of stuff and there's no answers here yet. Mike Mack, Planteteer and Shield AI are releasing the HavMind astronaut drone deployment system. I mean, this is what everybody is saying, that this is more like deep state information, that no one has anything going on. I mean, we can say anything. I mean, there's people saying, oh, we're doing, the NASA project where we were doing short-term trips between, certain areas of our state. I mean, that's all known about. All that kind of stuff is known, that's been going on. Of course, when people see it, they're going to be like, what is going on? But then if that's the case, no one said anything. No one's come forward. So we can say anything in this live stream. And the fact is that no one has come forward and said anything that helps anybody. Even the senators and the governor and multiple people have gotten zero answers, even after you have police and you have army confirmations of seeing them, and no one has claimed at this point. But my main thing is, now we've gone to another thing where in my area, they're trying to say that they're looking for radioactive material by scanning the grounds. I just don't believe that for a second, personally. I don't know about any of you guys if you do believe that. If you believe that they're scanning for any kind of radioactive materials, or they say, gamma rays, which the first thing I thought was, how are you picking up anything if there's no explosions? It just doesn't make any sense. And then when you do a little research, you find out that you have to have explosions, you have to have a leakage, you have to have a breach. Otherwise, you're not picking this stuff up very easily to begin with. But if you believe that they're scanning for drones, for radioactive material in any way, put a 1 in the comments. Put a 1. And the next thing I want you to do is put a 2 in the comments if you still think it's our government and no one is saying a word, and it is part of this whole deep state thing. So put a 2 if you think it's still deep state and you think it's our government and they're not really telling us the truth. And put a 1 if you know at all about this whole thing going on as far as the radioactive materials. Now, granted, let's talk about this. Cyber Ash, we say, why would they have drones? Okay, that's exactly what I was going to say. So my next statement was going to be, then why are these drones showing up in different parts of the world still? And we definitely know that it's happened in the UK and Germany, confirmed. I read the reports, I read the information. There's a lot of information going around too that's more hearsay, but the Coast Guard has made some talk about that. They have seen some certain things going on and seen these drones, and other people have made you know some they've implied they've seen. But I want to get the main thing I'm trying to say also is that most of these people who are seeing what they think are drones are not anything that's moving up in the sky. We even had Sirius Star bright up in the sky last week, and people were calling it a drone, a orb, whatever, this and that. And it's just totally, people are going bonkers. They're going bonkers. You have to realize when you're in New York, New Jersey area, you're talking a combined around 16 million people, and everybody's got their eyes in the sky and they're just going nuts. And all this is coming in, and it's just a lot of crazy information. Hi from Massachusetts. Why did they need to give New Jersey drone detectors if there's nothing to worry about? Well, I would think and I would hope that our own military wouldn't even need drone detectors, to be honest with you. I think it's just kind of weird that when it was happening, the first week here, when everybody was talking about this and they were actually calling the police, and they were started by the second week calling into the FBI, no one did anything. Nobody came out here. You would have thought the news would have came out here. You would have thought they would have had, a lot more on the feet information, but it took a whole nother week after that to even get a couple news people show up here and ask a few people, and people were showing videos of the original drones that were the smaller drones from far away. And that kind of didn't help a lot, because what people kept on saying was they can't see anything. And I agree with that. There was just a hard time if anyone could see anything that was clear to them, what was a drone, what wasn't. And people don't even know drone laws. Basic people don't know the drone laws. They don't know how high they should be flying. They don't know where they can fly. People don't know how long an average drone can fly normally. And so when people started realizing more and more by going into this information that there can't be a drone in the air over 400 feet, there can't be drones going over Picatinny Air Base and, infringing on that space, which was what was happening, then people realize, well, who the heck would do this and jeopardize getting fined or arrested or put in prison? And so then it started picking up more and more. And these drones were coming out at 4 or 5 of them at a time, and they were just angling in V forms, in half hexagons, and they were just scanning areas and hovering over somewhere for like an hour at a time. Like you could hear them and you could see them, and they would just stay there. And it was mind-boggling that you wouldn't have like every big news company from New York coming out here to film and talk about it right away. Instead, it's just like, it feels like it's been swept under cover. So my main reason for coming on is because we just constantly were watching people on different platforms, like, that we watch, and also on YouTube, who don't even live in this state. And at some time, I had to come out and start talking about this more, because otherwise, it just gets like all these people are just seeing airplanes and that's all they're seeing. No, Picatinny wouldn't confirm that. There's many other people in our local area that they wouldn't believe it was just an airplane. There are a few people that fly drones and that were confirming. And when we talk about drones too, they're not your typical usage drones. And they are much bigger, and they started out smaller size, as big as pretty much a hood of a car. And then it got even to a couple fixed wings also that I saw. And then it was a bigger drone than even some of those. Like, I don't even know how big the biggest was. I can't even, it was just so big that I couldn't compare it to a drone of any sort. It was like, it was pretty big and pretty low. And the one drone didn't have propellers, the biggest one. So this goes on, and I don't know what to think. All I can tell you is I want to give you my input and other people's input in the Morris County area, in where I live, which is 2 miles from Picatinny, about 35 miles from New York City. And other people have seen it in other towns. And that's the hearsay of me telling you. Like, you could believe it or you could not believe it, but that is what's going on. Some drone hunters went to where they reportedly crashed. I mean, this is like 3 or 4 crashes now that they reported. One was on the side of a supermarket. One was by a power line that it hit. And they asked the staff, and they told them that they were allowed to talk about it, and they had to contact. So I don't, but the thing is, no true information has come out about any of those drones. And there's a very good chance that all those drones were just regular drones by regular people. Because when I tell you that once everybody knew there was drones in the sky, the drone issue went tenfold with the drones in the sky. And I'm talking about the regular drones. Everybody. The drones are going away. Omar and Mo haven't seen as much because of the hype. So whatever were flying around slowed their roll. It absolutely has, Kaylee. That has definitely happened. Come into Thanksgiving weekend, before a little before Thanksgiving, and then it went into Thanksgiving weekend, and we had joked that the drones are taking off for the holidays, but it absolutely did slow down. And the whole agenda of everybody else's drones, calling them drones and jets, that went off the hook, and that made everybody not believe anything. And then even people posting on social medias sarcastically, like, there's a drone and it's an airplane. So now people are starting to guess, are these people like really seeing drones? Are they not seeing drones? And so that happened a ton. And so my belief is that 90% of these reported drones were truly just something else. They were truly drones that people were flying, or they were jets in the sky, or they were just looking at things up all the time in the air, and they reported them. But the 10% are truly what we saw, and what other people like me and like Picatinny Arsenal. And that's what's great, is Picatinny came forward and said what they said. And then you have the Essex County Prosecutor's Office and all the people, and plus Ocean County saw the drones. And I showed you the footage in my last video. They saw multiple drones coming off the ocean onto shore, and the police said that they cannot track the drones. They cannot even get close to them because of it makes their stuff go like bonkers. So I don't know. Did they find what they're looking for? That's hard to say. Maybe they were just looking for topography, maybe they were just figuring out where our bases are, where our power is, or they were testing to see if anyone would do anything if they just flew drones in. Now, if you have a bunch of people saying that we don't know what the drones are, what is that? How's that going to make you feel? It's going to make you feel horrible. Meanwhile, you got these people sitting here telling you over and over, right? Here they are.
There's no evidence of a current threat to public safety. Naomi Rockham has more.
I mean, that's what they keep on saying. No threat to public safety. How good can you feel if that's what you're constantly hearing? Knowing that no one has an answer for you. So those are the kind of things that I think we should be worried about. I don't know if anyone else here, I mean, we got 15 people in here. Has anyone heard about the radioactive thing? Anyone brought that up? Has anyone heard anything about that? Because now it's floating all over New Jersey and New York. And they're talking about scanning for dirty bombs and this and that and the other thing. It's crazy. I mean, even old videos have showed up from last year when some guy was dumping with his personal drone chemicals in somebody else's pool. Then they said, oh, they just caught this. No, they caught that guy last year. And then, the videos are showing up now like it's just happening. So they're just repeating all this clips. They're showing planes that are crashing from 2 years ago and saying it's a drone falling. And then people watch this thousands and thousands of times. And then people just don't know the truth, or they're not sure whether or not what they're watching at this point. And so that bothers me. Hey, Noel, how are you doing? And so there's all this talk and there's still no answers. And they're trying to put the fear in that, or the thoughts in our heads, or to have us think different about what's going on. They're trying to say that, someone authorized them to scan and take a look for, a dirty bomb evidence, which I just don't believe that's going to be easy to do in any case. I don't think that's what would happen. I don't think you would send up, 50 drones. I don't think you would have them sitting there in the air for an hour and not scanning. There's just, and then there's the fixed wing drones that were just flying over. So what's the answers? Why are they showing up in the UK? Why are they showing up in Germany, on military air bases? So that my question, my thought process, my gut feeling is still going back to deep state, or they're not telling us and we're being infiltrated, and there's no one stopping it at this point, and they don't know what to do, and they never thought it was going to happen like this. So, innovative thinking, I think. I mean, we kind of know what is possible. We know what's going on in war. We know drones have become commonplace. Whoever wants whatever, and why they were so many drones. They haven't slowed down, not as many sightings, but it was a problem. It was a problem. It's definitely slowed down. Just interviewed a guy, but he didn't speak much about the radioactive stuff. Yeah, because I think this is false information that's just being put out. So, and what's crazy is they said, we had a radioactive spike. And so, I don't exactly know what that means, because if you're like at a very minimal amount and then it goes from a spike of a very minimal amount, does that matter at all? And then so today I was like, let me see if I can find these apps that show the radioactivity around the world. And they exist, believe it or not, they exist. So I went over Connecticut and New Jersey, and I was looking for these radioactive supposed spike areas. And it showed me that yesterday was a little bit higher and they're much lower today. I don't know if you would really consider them a spike. And like I said, you cannot really trace anything without a bomb going off. It just makes it very confusing. If you go and look up anything about tracing radioactive materials and stuff, it just doesn't seem like it works like that. It's like the biggest thing that's going to send off radon in our areas would be, radioactivity would be radon from the ground, and that's emitting a very low amount. So anything that would be high would be a breach in anything. So Nuclear Regulatory Commission events page, lost item, low amount of radiation though. Right, low amount. That's exactly. So, I don't even know what that really means, or is it something to worry about? But I don't really know if that happens everywhere. How low? What is damaging? There's even talk that the biggest fear of a dirty bomb that has radioactive, elements is the fear itself. They said that the radioactive is so low from a small part. Only somewhat high for a while in the area where it was dropped, and then out wider. It drops off very fast. And so that was like something they were talking about, that it's really more about fear driven. So I looked up some information because I know that our government has to keep track of some of this stuff. But they said that even if they were able to do something in the southern Manhattan area, right, the downtown area, and they said that if the fear set in and things stopped, and I guess they have very good evidence from the early 2000s of when something bad happens and how much it affects our economy. But they're basically saying for today's standards that our economy in the New York area would lose $600 million a day. Every single day, $600 million. And then they said that if it was to go on for 6 months or a year, if something ever happened where they had to do a cleanup, and it would cost somewhere between $50 billion and $100 billion. And so it's an incredible amount of damage that could do to our economy with something like that. It is, and it's got to be thought about. It's got to be talked about. And I'm sure that if you start looking up this information like I did today, I was so surprised that it was even a thought process. And I think you're really, when you talk about war, I think this would be more terroristic threats and acts if I had to guess. That would be my personal opinion if people were going that route. But who knows? I mean, it all depends. I think you're supposed to have certain, things that you abide by in wartime and that you don't. And we know that terrorism doesn't abide by those types of things. So it's a great thing to think about possibly what's going on. And you also must understand that the fighting of the Taliban is still going on and on out there. And last week, I believe it was, is the head guy was put to death. And it's not in our news. You can't find it. But if you look it up, you can find it, but it's like you can't, it's not coming in. No one watches news. You have to actually go out there and look for this stuff. So this stuff is going on, and it could be retaliation. You don't know. It's just crazy stuff that is going on out there. But it was weird that radiation was so high in New York and New Jersey, but I don't think it was so high. I just think they call it a spike, but I think it was going off of these minimal standards, and then it was like a spike, and what could occur from that. And when I zoned into the areas, it was basically one of the areas was like Madison, New Jersey, Madison, New Jersey, like right over there. And when I zoomed in, that's what it was. And I'm like, well, what could that be? I don't even know what would be over there, but I was just looking up like where some of our nuclear power plants are. And then I noticed that there's 2 in Virginia. So when drones were down there this past year at Langley Air Force Base, then I was like thinking maybe they're scoping out those areas because there's 2 nuclear power plants over there. We have one in Pennsylvania, not too far away from here. There's one in Delaware, Maryland. There's one in Maryland that pretty much powers 40% of all Maryland. So there's a lot going on, and we don't have any answers. And I just don't totally believe this whole issue of the power. And we have no more answers than we did the other day. And I just want to put it out there that I don't believe this whole thought of looking for, radiation. And there's, I don't know where this totally came from, but I just feel like everybody's like, look over here, look over there, and we're not really getting any answers at this point. So once again, I have this information and I just want to get it out there, and I want to talk about what actually we saw in this area and how it's like developed into this whole thing. And still, we don't have any answers, because I just want people to realize, because I've been watching other people's streams. I've been on other platforms where there's literally a couple thousand people and on YouTube. And this is why it kind of stinks. I wish we could get more people in here and they could see more of someone who lives right here, right when it started. And honestly, people who are getting thousands of people watching and talking about this are not here in New Jersey, and maybe a few are, but a lot of people aren't, and they don't know exactly what we saw and what goes on. And so that's the way I feel about it. But we'll see how things come out. I just think that it's going to be really weird, really weird. You need a YouTube face for the thumbnail and clickbait title. I mean, of course, right? I mean, I guess the clickbait titles all do well and all this and that. I mean, it's just that, to be honest with you, even the one I did the other day where we didn't have a ton of people show up, it still got out to, a couple thousand people, which is enough information that gets out there. It's better than not having any information at all, because you're getting the same information from our senators and our FBI and the DHS, and they're not telling you anything either. At least that if you're coming here, that at least that there's people in my town and has seen these drones and they are for real. And no one has answers, instead of just thinking this is all just a lie. So that's kind of what my whole point is. What is going on in your immediate area, please, near the base? Thank you. So if you're talking to Picatinny, which is by me in New Jersey, there seems to like other like Kelsey has said in here, is that it's really slowed down and there hasn't been much going on. And I can't say for sure of if they were out there because it rained for 3 days and then it was freezing outside. And did I have people in our local forums saying, yeah, I mean, the drones are back, they're outside? Yes, we did. But were they really the drones? I'm not so sure about that because I just have seen 80% false information and probably 10 to 20% of real information. So, and the yellow orbs above New Jersey is the weirdest thing to me. I mean, I don't know much about them. I've seen a little bit about them. I also have seen, and people have said, when they get these videos on screen and when they get these drones on screen, it actually fades them out and it gets like a shield over the top of them. And then other people have said as they got closer to the drone, it sucked the energy from their drones. This is just what people have been saying and the police has said. So yeah, the weird bubble that was on the news channel. So I'm just going by what the people in New Jersey were saying. The angry astronaut has caught the UK drones on camera on its channel. And there was radio information of the drones coming in San Francisco that they had drones as high as 30,000 feet. And there was other things with multi-levels, and they were asking if there was supposed to be any kind of military training going on, and they said not that we know of. And so they said be careful out there. So this is going on too, and that people have been saying, and they've said in the last couple of the streams that I did, that this was going on all the way in San Francisco in California as even last week. Yeah, that's what Snoop Dogg's way higher than that, bro. But honestly, that's what one guy had said who was flying the jet at the time, and that he had seen one at 30. And so who knows? I'm pretty sure he meant 30,000. So just a bunch of weird, yeah, exactly. And I don't have any answers, and I'm not here trying to say that I have answers. I just feel like this whole radioactive thing is just another cover-up issue, and I don't think they're really telling the truth about anything. And I don't know where this came out of, and I don't even All I know is that bunch of people were talking about it today. So I'm not really sure who has brought this up or talked about it, but all of a sudden it's really caught, legs and has taken off. And so it concerns me because this misinformation just constantly is getting out there. And then, of course, the real information of people who have gone through this is, very small amount of people are seeing it, like this stream. And so I hope that things change. And I hope that some people, I know they're taking it seriously, but there's no response from our government. There's just nothing. And that just says a lot. It says a lot. And I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's bad or good, but it says a lot, and it makes me definitely feel not comfortable about who I can trust. They might come back, who knows, but today was slow. Yeah, it's from what I hear, it hasn't happened so much, but I haven't seen any more new news come out besides the radioactive surveying with the drones, which I just think was kind of ridiculous when it comes down to it. And it's a need to know basis. I mean, I think it is. I mean, there are people, and there's these people who are saying it's deep state. And when you go searching on YouTube, you can find these people that they say they're going to be called out, that it's going to be soon. It's going to be when the new office takes over. Even the presidents don't even know about this, and they're going to get called out. It's been an ongoing thing for 20 something years, deep state, blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is just crazy stuff. I mean, I don't really, I'm sure stuff like that happens, but it's, if that ever comes out, I'm going to be blown away. I'm already just like, I can't believe we don't have any answers about anything. And we have basically all the political people, anyone you can ask for, coming out and saying, what can we do? And nothing's happened. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out also is that Picatinny is about 2 miles from me north, but also the Trump golf course is approximately like 45 minutes away from me south. And so that was the whole thing. They were doing this pattern of flying down and flying back up, even to where people said that they were basically around Somerset area and then flying over the Trump golf course and then coming back up. So that's what they were saying over and over. And I just can't believe that no one else has done anything about that. So 89-year-old dad says it's been like this since the Roswell. That's what we were talking about, and it ticks him off. That's what I was talking about today, that I'm surprised they don't even bring that stuff back up again with all this going on. It's all this like secret information that they don't release, and it just makes you wonder, right? Because like, why can't we release this stuff? Why don't we ever find the truth out? Why don't they release information about JFK? Why are we hid from everything? And is it because that the distrust would be so savage that our country would go upside down? I mean, the distrust right now that this is doing, I'm sure there's no one in here at this point right now. There's 17 people in here. How trustworthy do you feel about your own government at this point right now? It's just like, thanks for hitting the 100% and the hearts. I appreciate that. And the likes, that helps, get it out. And I just see everybody with the distrust, and it's gotten worse, for decades now. And at some point that has to change and turn around. I just don't know when that is going to be. So, here's the thing, right? They think we're children. I get your point, but what it is when you have the mass majority of the country working their butts off to make a living and then surviving barely, and then you have to have the energy to take care of your kids and take care of your family, and you don't have enough money and insurance and coverage, God forbid, if anyone gets sick, how do you have time to really care about anything? And this is where people don't realize your democracy is being destroyed. And here we go again with just we just let everything go by the wayside because basically no one has any energy to do anything. I think people would rather, instead of try to figure things out, it seems to me at this point they would rather just fight. And that's not going to solve any issues. We have no clarity in this country right now, and we're allowing division. And I worry about the flip side. Like, I get a lot of people why they voted for certain things, and I get why other people voted for certain things. But I'm going to be really honest with you, and I come in the middle of a lot of this stuff, and I really truly believe, and I worry about when the richest of the rich and the richest man in the world has ties with people. That is a scary thing, and we're manipulated so deep and so far down that it's out of our hands and out of our control. And you have no idea how fast that can happen in a heartbeat. So if you think that that all this talk is and all this is just happening, I don't know. Who knows what's going on? We don't know really. I just wish that for the best, I hope that we can come together and figure this out. And it's crazy where no one's talking about who won anything. No one's talking about who's doing this, who's doing that. We're basically trying to come together and try to figure these things out for the welfare of everybody around here, because it's not only just happening here, it's happening in more and more places, and it's something to worry about. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know. Look it. Do I think the man's a genius? Yeah, absolutely a genius. But we've seen many other geniuses and what happens to their brains. I mean, there's a reason why a person takes Special K every day from a doctor. And it's basically, they call it Special K, that ketamine. It's because your brain can't rest. It never stops. And so when people start doing things like that, you start to worry about their sanity, about what they're doing to themselves, and how can they run the biggest companies and be the richest person in the world. I hope there's balance, because the power pull right now is ridiculous. It's off the hook. So I don't know where things are going to end, but I hope that there's more balance as we move forward with things, because it's not going to be a great world if the richest of the rich get what they want. I'll tell you that. There's people that you see are wealthy and that they give back, and then there's people who are wealthy and they're power freaks. And I see the difference, and I hope that someone else would see the difference. And I don't know. It's just, it's scary to see what could possibly happen. If you know Elon, tell him to stop threatening the UK. It won't end well for him. I mean, there's been threats. There's been several things that he said is very confusing for a person in his, in his point of view to say. Almost to the point where if I was a holder of any of his companies, I would be a little distraught. Also, because in a heartbeat, he could just harpoon everything by what he says. And so it's a little scary, but even so, his stock is, Tesla itself is up 100% in a short amount of time. And I know everything is basically doing great, but it's just that I don't know. I don't know where the balance is, because there's going to be much more poor people that need a lot of help, and being wealthy is going to definitely benefit, and it has benefited for a while. So, but we'll see what happens. He hasn't said something it can't be jailed for already. He has He has said something. I mean, hasn't he? Oh, I don't know if he has or not, to be honest with you. And I just don't like when people have a lot of power and control and then say things to manipulate the outcomes. I just don't believe that the richest guy in the world should be manipulating and getting behind political candidates. That's what I just think. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I know other people do it a lot also, but there's other billionaires that don't do it. You take the owner of, Starbucks. He won't say who he backs, even though he was in a race, and he doesn't go out and shoot his mouth off about it. And there's other people that are the same. And then if they support, they're just not out there telling everybody. And it's just kind of weird to have someone so much money behind so many people. But listen, it goes on both sides. It does. I understand that. And I'm not blind to see it. Our democracy is being stomped down because we don't even have people running on both sides. You have one side that just had someone fill the gap pretty much, and we didn't have anybody run. You have to understand that destroys your democracy also. No matter if you liked her or not, it destroys our democracy the way it was done. And the way that the other side is approached at is, I mean, come on, to be really honest with you, even people who did not support the man who's going to be your president, now they just did a 180, and it's embarrassing to see people like who he insulted just turn around and say anything goes. I mean, I know they don't want to commit political suicide, but how does anyone trust any of these people anymore? And this is where this trust has just fallen off the edge and gotten worse and worse. And it's not on one side, it's on both. And people need to start taking a look. I mean, you look at the Democrat side, they tried to manipulate the last 3 elections alone, right? Many of the people thought they were going to have Bernie Sanders. No, we'll just end that. We'll get that. We'll use our super delegates and we'll put in someone else. I mean, that is what super delegates are for, is for saving, in a sense, an uneducated group of people, but it's also not for manipulation from money of who they want placed there. That's a total different topic. I don't know if I'm going too deep, but it's time to get behind the president and make America great again. I mean, you're in Canada, pal. We'll see what happens, but this psychological warfare is definitely going on right now. And I feel like there is some manipulation going on, and I worry for us in general. We'll see how things pan out, but I think I went long enough, and I hope that a little bit of this gets out there. So at this point, we'll see what happens. But I just wanted to drop some info about this radioactive. I think it's garbage, and I think it's another look over here and an excuse for people to take a deep breath, and I don't even believe it's so. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll get some answers, and if we don't, well, then there'll be an outcome. But I'm out of here. Have a good night. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out and watching. I hope you got a little bit of insight on this. Peace out.